Now the question arises, how do we recognize ourselves as spiritual beings? It is not that one person is a spiritual being and another is not a spiritual being. We are all equally spiritual. We all have a spiritual side to our gross body. However, we do not normally understand this distinction, and we have always an enormous sense of only body consciousness. We normally, therefore, do not question, who am I? Am I the body or any different part of my body? How do I identify myself? Who, after all, do I identify with? Therefore, normally, if somebody asks us, we immediately give our name, and we, of course, have a sense of who we are in terms of the label that the world has given us, the designations that we enjoy, the house we have, the car we keep, and so on. So, we speak out of an intent sense of our personality, which identifies itself with the body and its possessions. But when we start a process of elimination of each part of the body, we may come to the conclusion that we are not the body. Actually, we are the sum total of our gross body and the unseen body. This body also needs appropriate nourishment, but we normally do not seem to care much about it. The question then comes that if I am not the body, then who am I after all? Am I the body in terms of the nose, my hands, my other parts of the body? This would inevitably lead us to the answer that I am actually the spirit within. The spirit has its own innate qualities and characteristics, the primary ones being peace, happiness, and bliss. And from where does this quality of peace, happiness, and bliss actually come from is then the logical question. Well, it comes from the power which created you, as it is supposed to be the embodiment of that same kind of energy. It follows, therefore, that unless we are in alignment with those very forces which brought us into existence, we cannot be at peace with ourselves. How does one become aware of the inner self, the spirit? And is it a goal of human life to be aware of it? Well, one becomes aware of the spiritual aspect of one's existence by cultivating a sense of being aware of the contents of our mind. The goal of human life is that we remain positive, cheerful, and happy in spite of adverse circumstances. Human beings feel the impact of negative circumstances much more than their ability to counter positively the impact of such circumstances. So why, after all, do we need spirituality? For instance, we all are destined to lose our loved ones at some point of life. We could also meet with adversity or setbacks in our career, relationships, physical health and suffering, problems in the family, and so on and so forth. At such times, if we are not adequately equipped and armored with appropriate knowledge to cope with these inevitable or likely situations, then we may undergo extreme reactions or responses that will be against the canons of a healthy response. An unhealthy response is a response which impacts our physical body and in turn also impacts our inner spirit, and we feel helpless in being able to cope with it. And we undergo situations where we suffer mentally, emotionally, and even physically.